Next on ABC 7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend, a family fight turns into a standoff with SWAT forced to enter the home to subdue the subject. The village of Hatch in Doña County preparing to say goodbye to one of their own, with notables across the state joining in. And on the anniversary of the death of a Horizon student, the community comes together to celebrate an act of kindness. With all the news you need to start your Saturday, August 20th, ABC 7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend starts right now.
Live, where news comes first. From the Mesilla Valley and Las Cruces to El Paso and the borderland. This is ABC 7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend.
Well, good morning, El Paso, and thank you for joining us. I'm Andrew J. Polk. ABC 7 with breaking news this morning. A family fight in East El Paso last night ends with one man behind bars this morning. Police tell us officers were called to a home on the 10,100 block of Buckwood around 8:30 last night. When they arrived, they learned a family member had become violent during the fight. The family managed to get out of the house safely, but the man refused to leave the home. Officers called the SWAT team in to assist. After attempts to negotiate with the man failed, SWAT team members were able to enter the house, but the man reportedly attacked a SWAT member, but the man was subdued quickly.
He will be charged with aggravated assault on a public servant. As a result of this call, one of the El Paso Police Department's SWAT operators did sustain a minor injury.
The suspect is described by police to be in his late 20s. He reportedly used knives and shooting stars to attack the SWAT team member. We will update you as soon as we get any more information on this situation. And the village of Hatch in Doña County will say goodbye to the fallen officer Jose Chavez tomorrow. Several people are expected to speak during Officer Chavez's funeral, including Congressman Steve Pierce and Governor Susana Martinez. Officer Chavez's body will be escorted from the village of Hatch back to Las Cruces for a final patrol with his fellow officers. On Monday, our crews followed the procession of the slain officer's body from the village of Hatch to Las Cruces. Along the highway, we saw dozens of law enforcement and civilians paying their respects to the fallen officer. ABC 7 spoke exclusively with Governor Susana Martinez as she prepares for Sunday. Over the phone, Governor Martinez called Friday's killing, quote, absolutely devastating. She added that she's the daughter and wife of law enforcement officers, so this killing really hits home.
There's obviously an awful lot of evil in the world, and it's brave officers like Jose Chavez who face it every single day so that we don't have to. And without men and women willing to pay the ultimate price for us, like Jose did, we wouldn't be able to enjoy the liberties that we do every single day.
And here's a look at the funeral procession for Officer Jose Chavez. It begins at Hatch, 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. It heads south to Las Cruces on I-25, so that means all southbound lanes will be closed for the procession. Everyone in the procession will then exit at University Avenue in Las Cruces and park at the NMSU Pan Am Center, where the funeral is set to begin Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. If you're not able to make it out to the Pan Am Center on Sunday, you'll still be able to watch Officer Chavez's funeral. We'll stream it live at KVIA.com beginning at 3 o'clock. For details on the funeral, the procession from Hatch, and all the fundraising events happening over the weekend, you can visit the homepage of KVIA.com. In our top story section, just click on the Officer Chavez funeral story. The man accused of pulling the trigger and killing Officer Chavez finally made his first appearance in court yesterday. Jesse Haynes actually had 2 hearings yesterday. Only one was in person, though. Cameras were not allowed in either court, but we had an ABC 7 crew sitting in on both of them. They tell us Haynes was shackled and wore a red jumpsuit. He was rolled into the courtroom in a wheelchair. This after investigators say he shot himself in the leg during that chase last Friday. Moments later, a federal judge read charges against him. They include carjacking resulting in serious bodily injury, discharging a firearm from a crime of violence, during a crime of violence rather, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Then at 3 yesterday afternoon, Haynes was back in court, this time via video conference. The state of New Mexico charged Haynes with first-degree murder, willful and deliberate, trafficking controlled substances, in this case for meth, distribution of marijuana, and there's even a drug paraphernalia charge as well, plus aggravated fleeing of an officer. It's not been determined if Haynes will face the federal charges first or a state charge of first-degree murder, willful and deliberate. He could also be extradited to Ohio, where he faces an additional murder charge. But getting to our Storm Track weather now, today the UTEP football team is hosting their annual preseason football cookout. That's where we find Storm Track meteorologist Stephen Decatur. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning. I'm live at a not-so-sunny Sun Bowl this morning. Plenty of cloud cover behind me, which is good news for the UTEP Minor Fan Club preseason cook-off, which are starting right about now, and it's going to be going through the morning hours. People are getting ready to begin that here shortly, and we're going to be checking in with Larry Rodriguez, who's a member of that fan club, and talk to him about the upcoming UTEP Minor football season, which begins in just 2 weeks. Now, the weather today is looking pretty nice. Like I said, cloud cover around this morning, keeping us cool. Here's a look at the radar. You can see there are some light showers out there this morning, especially up towards Las Cruces and just south of us, working into the lower valley as well. We'll zoom in for a closer look, and you can see some of that heaviest precipitation at the moment up near Vado, in between Las Cruces and El Paso on I-10. So if you are heading in between those two cities this morning, expect to deal with some wet roadways out there, so drive carefully. Now, a lot of it's not reaching the ground, very light precipitation, just some mist for many locations, but keep that in mind, and it's also keeping us cool here this morning. I'll have a look at your full forecast coming up. Andrew, back to you.
Thanks, Stephen. Check back with you in just a bit. In the meantime, though, police say no charges have been filed after a short high-speed chase ended with shots fired from a police officer. Around 3:30 yesterday afternoon, Las Cruces police say an officer pulled over a black SUV near the intersection of Picacho and Melendres. As the officer got out of his unit, police say the driver took off speeding. The driver allegedly tried to escape the officers, but ended up crashing into several police units. During the chase, police say an officer fired at least one round at the driver, but it did not hit him. The driver was taken into custody about 3 blocks away from where he was originally pulled over. Police say the deadly shooting this past week in West El Paso was the result of a drug deal gone wrong. 2 teenagers were charged with capital murder, accused of killing 20-year-old Christian Georgian, 18-year-old Marcelo Mayand, and 17-year-old Marco Antonio Nava are in custody. Police say they wanted to rip off Georgian when making a drug deal on the 1000 block of KVIA.com Drive in West El Paso. Police say Mayand and Nava met with Georgian and planned to steal his drugs. But at some point, police say the young men began arguing, and when Georgian was getting out of a vehicle, he was shot and fell to the ground. Both suspects are being held on a $2 million bond. El Paso police officers also arrest one of their own. Jorge Pedroza de la Riva, an officer with 19 months of experience, was arrested and charged with DWI. This happened Wednesday morning around 3. Police say the off-duty officer rear-ended a car on the 1700 block of North Zaragoza. The driver allegedly complained of back and neck pain. Pedroza de la Riva was allegedly found to be intoxicated. He was booked into the El Paso County Jail on a $2,000 bond. Police say the officer has now been placed on administrative duty. And an El Paso woman now faces charges for allegedly stabbing a man outside a bar in northeast El Paso. Police say 32-year-old Rosalinda Medrano stabbed a 32-year-old man outside the Cinco Estrellas bar yesterday morning on the 9400 block of McCombs. She's charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. As police investigated, Medrano allegedly got into a fight with the man inside the bar, then stabbed him in his upper torso. The victim was rushed to a hospital where he is being treated for serious injuries. Officers later arrested Medrano at her home. She's being held on a $101,000 bond. And police are still investigating the death of a baby girl that died after she fell into a bucket of water. It happened Thursday at a little before 6 p.m. at a home on the 8300 block of Mercury in northeast El Paso. Investigators say relatives found Nayeli Castro unresponsive and immediately tried performing CPR on her. Investigators had part of the block taped off during the investigation. We've since learned the girl was being rushed to University Medical Center as officers arrived. She died at the hospital. Officers with the El Paso Police Department's Crimes Against Persons unit are investigating. And 2 years ago, a family in Horizon lost a loved one in a drowning accident. Yesterday, the city of Horizon came together to celebrate an act of kindness day in memory of the former Horizon High School student, Misael Hernandez. ABC 7's Jerry Nahara has the story.
August 19th marked Misael Hernandez's birthday. Friends and family, along with others, called an act of kindness day to spread the kindness that Hernandez was known for. With a week left before high school football begins, Horizon High School football players test their skills in a scrimmage, and band members have a cookout celebrating their last day of band camp. But on this day, August 19th, they also remember Misael Hernandez. Hernandez died in 2014 after drowning in a lake during a church retreat just 2 weeks after graduation.
He graduated number 2 in his class. He gave a salutatorian speech at his graduation. He's one of the best students I've ever had.
Horizon High band director Raul Candelaria says Hernandez's goal was to make everyone happy.
He would see somebody that was having a kind of trouble. He'd take initiative and he'll go down there and talk to them and try to make them smile.
Bandmates like Vivian Olivo say they still remember Hernandez's own kindness.
I'd always be one of the first ones here, and he'd always have breakfast for everybody, and I'd be like the last ones to go home. And he'd always make sure everybody had a ride. If not, like, he'd try to fit as many people as he could in his truck.
Others like Daniela Rios tell me Hernandez was also an inspiration to many.
I saw a lot of dedication. He was a really good guy, and he would always put 100% into everything.
On this day, friends tell me they spread a little kindness in memory of Hernandez themselves.
Well, I got myself some coffee at McDonald's this morning, and I paid for the 2 cars behind me that had ordered breakfast already.
Funny part was when I tried doing it, somebody actually did it on me.
I even caught this young gentleman giving his piece of cake to a young girl.
Like a song says, stay humble and help the next one in line, he would do that.
Hernandez would have turned 20 Saturday. Reporting for Good Morning El Paso Weekend, I'm Jerry Nájera with ABC 7.
A decorated American Olympian now says he's sorry after he and several teammates alleged they were robbed at gunpoint. This comes after days of confusion about what actually happened to Ryan Lochte, James Fegan, Jack Conger, and Gunnar Bentz. Lochte, posting on social media, said, quote, "I want to apologize for my behavior last weekend for not being more careful and candid, and I would describe the events of that early morning." 2 of the swimmers, Bentz and Conger, landed in Miami Friday morning. Jamie Fegan, the only swimmer still in Rio, agreed to pay $11,000 to a charity to get his passport back.
Fegan is the one who really needs to be concerned because he's there.
In his apology, Lochte went on to say it was a traumatic experience to be in a foreign country with a stranger pointing a gun at him and demanding money. He goes on to say, regardless, he should have been more responsible. And of course, don't forget to pick up your copy of the El Paso Ink. This week only in El Paso Ink, why a fast-growing customer service company is expanding in El Paso, what it does for its employees, and why you shouldn't call it a call center. And meet the El Pasoan who's leading a DC group that's right in the middle of the big national debate about guns. And what do more than a dozen local teams hope to put into and get out of the race to use NASA technology? El Paso Ink is online at KVIA.com and available for home and business delivery. Call that number at the bottom of your screen, 534-4422, to subscribe. The start of the school year is creeping closer for more Borderlands students, but coming up on Good Morning El Paso Weekend, top spots on many campuses may be empty even as students return. And the construction on El Paso's west side can lead to major congestion or worse, so how are emergency services dealing with the roads? We're going to take a live look at our traffic system this morning, showing that we've got some bit of a backup happening, at least some slowdowns happening around Central and downtown. But otherwise, it's mostly green on the board for us here so far this morning. No major problems to report, though, again, some slowdowns we're looking at there around the central part of town. You're watching ABC 7, where news comes first.